Hi, and welcome to our open house. I'm Christina Palmer.
And I'm Celeste Huss. We're with Parker Real Estate.
Today we're going to talk about the difference between home inspections and appraisals. So let's dive right in and talk about the differences between these two.
So an appraisal is there to protect the lender. The lender wants to know that if a buyer is buying a home, that when they're not paying too much and that the house is in good condition. So some of the things that happen in an appraisal are that they measure the home, they check the general condition of the home, and they're just going to test the functionality of certain things. So for instance, if you have your gas turned off, they can't verify that the furnace works or that the water heater works. So they do want to make sure that they're checking into those items and making sure that it's a functional house, that it's not in severe disrepair or anything that would be a red flag to the lender that they don't want to put money out there on that real estate transaction.
So who pays for this? Who pays for the appraisal?
The buyer does. So a lender actually has to submit the order for the appraisal. It has to be ordered through them. Okay. Nevertheless, the buyer does have to pay for it. And so they usually will get your credit card information up front, and they go ahead and order that, and then the appraiser just works everything out with the agent or the owner of the home to get access to it.
Do they have any say on who can be chosen to go out there and represent them?
No. Because of the mortgage meltdown that happened around 2008, there's a clear division between lenders and appraisers so that they can't influence the value.
So what happens after the appraisal comes back and it's not high enough for the loan amount that they're requesting?
So if the appraisal comes in low, then what you have to work with at that point in time is that you can go back to the seller and you can ask to negotiate the price of the home to maybe bring it down. On the flip side, if it is higher, you don't have to do anything, and the seller actually doesn't have to even know because they're not the one who paid for the appraisal, so they don't even need to know what it appraised for as long as it came in at the purchase price. But if it does come in low, unfortunately, the buyer is going to be out that money. It's kind of a calculated risk in a real estate purchase transaction. But as long as you have a deadline in your contract to protect your earnest money that you've put down on the transaction of the home, if it's a deal breaker, you can go ahead and get that back.
That is great. That is great. Good information. What if you're paying for cash for a home?
An appraisal is not required if you pay cash for a home.
So it's only, an appraisal is only required if you are getting a loan. Mm-hmm.
Some people prefer to have an appraisal done just because it gives them peace of mind that they're not paying too much for the home, but it's not a requirement if you're paying cash.
Great, great. So let's talk about inspections. So this is one area that as a buyer, you get to choose who you want to use. And there are many choices out there. I would suggest talking with your real estate agent that is representing you, as well as going to your friends and family, relatives for recommendations. They usually cost between $300 and $500, and it is an in-depth look of the house that you're looking at purchasing. They're going to look at everything from the roof to the foundation to plumbing to electricity, everything in between. And it really is, that's going to give you the peace of mind that you're going to want going into this transaction or going into this purchase, because it's such a big deal. Inspection is key, in my opinion. It's so important.
Yeah. Well, because an inspector is looking at so many different aspects of the home that maybe you wouldn't do. I mean, I'm not going to crawl into the crawl space and
or
see
the attic.
What looks there in the attic, or some people may not look for leaks under the sink or run the dishwasher, and so they do all of those little things to try and flush out any problems, if you will, in the whole process.
Right. So a good question is, you come back from an inspection and there's something wrong with your roof. What can you, as a buyer, what can you do at that point?
Well, it's open up to negotiation at that point in time for sure. You want to communicate with the seller, the seller's agent, what your concerns are and what would be an agreeable solution. You can ask the seller to fix the items outright. You could ask for a price reduction for what you figure is going to be a good agreed upon, you know, price for that. And then also you could just ask for a credit. So maybe a repair credit to have it fixed too.
Good,
So
good.
there's
So there
a
are
couple
options.
different
You're,
options, yeah.
you're definitely not stuck with something, a leaky roof. There's options to maneuver through that. And that doesn't mean that it's a dead deal either. I feel like sometimes people are like, the roof's leaking, I'm out. Where there's things that you can do to move forward if this is a home that you want to pursue or buy.
So there are extra tests too that you can pay for that aren't automatically always included in a home inspection. Those can be meth tests, which can be important. Sometimes houses can be deceiving, and I've found that in my career. There can be testing for radon, there can be additional testing for mold. And anytime there may be a significant issue, your home inspector will usually point you to a contractor or an engineer or somebody who's specialized in that to get further clarification about if this is a really serious problem. And if it is a serious problem, then of course you want to go back to the seller, negotiate with them on how you want to handle it. So one of the things too is that when you get your report back from your home inspector, you're going to be able to take some of these items back to the seller. You're going to be able to negotiate them. Some of them could be deal breakers, and that's again why you have a due diligence deadline to be able to address any of those things. And I like, my rule of thumb, and I think it's yours too, is to really try and address safety issues first.
Absolutely.
Safety issues should always be the biggest thing. But if you take a huge list to the seller, you could not get very much cooperation if you're like, well, this little thing is broken and this little thing is broken. I mean, really, let's make sure there aren't any major things, and then, you know, take it from there.
Right.
But we're always happy to consult our clients and let them know.
Sure.
One of the other things too is that, like in the winter, a home inspector can't test the AC system because it would hurt it.
Yes.
And then no matter what time of year, but they don't cover things like testing the sprinkler systems. They would just refer you to a landscape person to be able to take care of
Good
those
to know.
things.
Great tips.
So,
Great tips. Well, thanks for joining us today. Give us a like and don't forget to subscribe to our channel.
and if you have any questions for us, give us a comment. We're happy to answer any questions in the comments or make future videos to answer those questions for you.